Let us discuss about this Machil encounter case. By the way, it is 08 September 2015 newspaper. So the Machil encounter case, it raises certain dark spots with regard to our management of counterinsurgency in India. If you talk about counterinsurgency measures, so they have to establish the sovereignty of India on that particular geographical soil, and at the same time they also shall enjoy or else shall gain the respect of the habitants over there. In India, there is an excessive primacy given to the first thing against the other. So in these circumstances, the government has started giving certain monetary incentives to the military people who have killed the militants. So in this context, the killing of the innocents as militants have increased. The Machil encounter is a reflection of this. When the same issue has happened in Patribal, the Supreme Court has clearly said that either it has to go with court-martial or through a common criminal procedure, ordinary criminal procedure. Then the military chose to take it under court-martial. So in these circumstances, the punishment was brought in the life sentence was given to the people who are involved in this particular martial encounter case, which is a clear cold-blooded murder. Now the second thing is, it has provided a new impetus to the protection of the human rights, especially in areas where Armed Forces Special Powers Act was installed. So with regard to Armed Forces Special Powers Act, anyone who is or any conflict area so declared, any action of the military cannot be questioned, and also for prior permission of the central government is required for any prosecution on any rights violation of the people over there. So in this context, we already know Justice Jeevan Reddy Committee what it has spoken about. Jeevan Reddy Committee has recommended strongly for the repeal of Armed Forces Special Powers Act that provides for arbitrary powers to the military. Now understand, in a democratic government, the military government has to be under the civilian administration. Now, this civilian administration has totally collapsed in all these areas where they are said to be declared under Armed Forces Special Powers Act. It means the AFSPA and its imposition and provisions, they are not in line with our democratic principle. So, but however, so punishing these culprits is a welcome move. The military acknowledging that everything in the conflict zone cannot be taken for granted. And the next thing is ORP, one rank, one pension scheme. Already I told to you about this. It is irrespective of the time of retirement. Based on the age one person has served in the army and the rank at which he has retired, all of them shall be provided with equal pension, that is one rank, one pension about. Now the government has clarified that it is going to provide a pension to every person who has served, or one rank, one pension who has served greater than 15 years in the army. And the second thing is, the government said it may revise the rank and proportionate pensions once in 5 years. Probably this may become bone of contention in the long run. So that's why government has to clarify all the issues. In this, government has went with a single judge committee. Better government would have gone with a civilian committee or its own governmental executive committee to find a quick solution for this kind of matters over here. And next is the growth of left. It's a beautiful article over here. The Firoz Gandhi's article, they are coming up with there is something kind of a learning experience through these articles. Now, if you see, in the West, there is a growth of leftist movement, and the people are also gaining close to them. Now, if you see certain incidents, especially in Greece, recently, when the debt debate is going on, so in the plebiscite conducted, so the Prime Minister Syriza, he got the huge support from the people of the Greece. Similarly, in the United States of America, which is a capitalistic homeland, the Bernie Sanders, who is talking about equal rights, or Occupy Wall Street, or who is talking about health insurance for all, This particular Bernie Sanders popularity is increasing. It is almost at the level of 25%. And next is Pablo Iglesias and his party Podemos, and its influence is increasing in Europe. In Jeremy Corbyn in the case of UK, and Beppe Grillo in the case of Italy. All these represent the growing leftism with regard to the Western politics are concerned. So what might be the reason for this? Understand, whenever there is inequality, raised inequalities, and unemployment of the youth exists, automatically a shift towards the left generally can be seen. Now, in this context, there is a famous book which was written, that is Thomas Piketty's Capital in the 21st Century. So, in this Thomas Piketty's book, what he has observed is the top 1% Americans, high earning Americans, their earnings have increased by 200%, close to 200%. At the same time, the middle class wages have decreased by 5% with regard to after 2011 are concerned. It means that even in the times of worse economic crisis, the higher strata of the society are more benefiting from the situation, where the lower strata of the society are losing from the situation. And unemployment rate is also has increased over this time. Now, if you see the Great Depression, before the Great Depression, the America's total state establishment was under the control of Rockefellers, J.P. Morgan, and next one is Carnegie. The Carnegie Steel, which later converted into U.S. Steel, the J.P. Morgan, Morgan Chase Bank, and Western Electric Company. And next is this guy Rockefeller, the Standard Oil Rockefeller. All these people, they have captured the state authority. Now that age is called as Gilded Age. This Gilded Age was ended because of certain progressive thoughts or progressive people in power. So these are the Teddy Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, etc. Now if you see the same situation where the authority of the state was occupied by certain rent-seeking plutocrats is visible. Corrupt people is visible, I can say it in a simple terms. Certain corrupt people having the control over the state power. So Francis Fukuyama, he describes this as a second Gilded Age or repatrimonialization. Repatrimonialization. This is what is the term used by the Francis Fukuyama, or the second Gilded Age, where there is a huge corruption which is controlling the state apparatus. Now, in this context, we need another line of progressive people to come to make the world to move out of this situation. The growing leftist stand can be seen from this particular perspective. So, in these circumstances, what they have to fight about? They have to fight inequalities, they have to fight for minimum wages, the climate change, and they have to fight for the so-called as the rights of the Dalits, etc. So in these circumstances, the second progressive era is going to have much wider challenges compared to the first progressive era. And the next is bilateral investment treaties. They are being signed with almost 87 countries, and they are mostly anarchic, and they do not have proper compatibility with each other. So in this context, the Law Commission was given a responsibility to make a draft model bill. So if you see India and Australia bilateral investment treaty, it was put to the test when a white company, white industries, they have challenged the India's stand or cancellation of the license, etc., where India has ended up paying huge money in the International Arbitration Tribunal. So in this case, the revisiting of the bilateral investment treaties becomes very much important. So what this Law Commission has recommended for, here the Law Commission has to balance the protection of the sovereignty or protection of our interests, one case, and at the same time attraction of the investments from the other country. So in this context, the recommendations it made are, the definition which is previously existing was enterprise-based definition. Now we are moving it towards the asset-based definition. It means that any person who holds the asset in a particular country, he comes under the definition of that. And the next second thing is the most favored nation, which was given to all the investments coming from any country. But it did not allow the differential treatment to certain level of investments coming into the country. Law Commission recommended to remove that from the bilateral treaties. And the third thing is the denial of benefits. So if the denial of benefits, it has to be restricted to certain circumstances, not a blanket denial of benefits. What are these circumstances? For example, if the company involves in corruption charges in India, the country, whatever the benefits it has promised, it can reverse all these benefits. Such a protective mechanism can be provided with. And also, with regard to dispute resolution mechanism, if the local court already has seen the matter, if it has finally settled by that particular judicial authority within the state, then the law has to declare that it shall not come for something called as arbitration again. So these are the various recommendations given by this Law Commission on the bilateral investment treaties. Now the GST, the next article is GST. By Pooja Mehra, what this article says is this. So though we have expected for a 2% around growth in GDP because of the introduction of various tax reforms, so that is too optimistic a figure according to this article. What is the reason? We are not bringing in or reforming the entire tax system, one country to the level of one country, one taxation. Still, there are many products which are outside this GST, which are highly revenue generating, such as tobacco, alcohol, the oil and lubricants. All these are outside the GST. With regard to interstate GST, so on the plea of the manufacturing states, 1% extra levy was laid. And the third thing is, it is based on revenue neutral model. It means none of them have to lose because of the introduction of the GST. So it means the competitiveness which GST is expected to bring in, it has got neutralized because of these compromises the bill has to made to get it passed through the parliament. So because of this, it is expected that it hardly can add up for 0.18 to 1% of the GDP. And now you know the Syrian catastrophe. Aylan Kurdi, a small boy, so he was drowned into the Mediterranean Sea and he found on the Turkey coast, which is heart-wrenching, and it shows the scenario of the humanitarian crisis which the refugees are undergoing through. So now it shows what the entire Syrian crisis shows. The failure of the United Nations Organization and its Security Council to resolve the Syrian crisis. Now here, the vested interests of the countries have more dominated rather than the humanitarian issues of the people as a whole. So in this case, the China and Russia, it wanted to have a specific role for the Assad, the existing government. Now, on the other hand, Europe and America, they wanted to have no role for the Assad. And added to that, the West Asia, now or else we call it as Middle East, there are geopolitics which are playing over there. Assad, I can say it belongs to something broad, we can say him as Shia. So then he has got the support of the Iran. And it means he is opposed by Turkey, Saudi Arabia, etc. It means that the local vested politics and also the global politics, they have all failed the Syria. So now, in the name of the democratic transformation, the entire Arab Spring has led to a huge humanitarian crisis across the globe. It means that, so is democracy is a means or an end towards the human life? That is again a question which comes into a forefront over here. And next is this freedom of speech. It is too complicated an article, and the too many case references, it is mostly for the law people with law as an optional. We don't need to study. Even frankly said, I did not understand anything in this article. That is too legalistic for me to understand. Thank you very much.